welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Here we go with another one. Man, some of these guys in the quote-unquote sports media or the podcasting sphere really say some interesting things. And I guess the plus to that is it always gives us stuff to talk about as sports fans. So we're going to get right into that shortly. Gilbert Arenas, in case you were wondering, man, this guy. Anyway, we're going to get right into that. But before we do, you know what we got to do. Here on YouTube, if you haven't already, go ahead. Please click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell so you're aware whenever new episodes come out and you can stay on top of this content that we're producing for you. If you want the audio-only version of the podcast, we're pretty much anywhere you get your audio podcast. Open up your platform, type in The Format Podcast in the search, and we should come up. Go ahead and give us a subscribe right there. Leave us a comment on YouTube or on your audio podcast platform, and please give us that 5-star rating. Those two things, I know I say it all the time, but they help us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us, helps us rise in the algorithm, and really keeps us in business continuing to do this programming that I'm putting out for you, okay? So let's get right to it. Oh, my goodness. Gilbert Arenas, man, no chill Gil. So he if you don't know, look him up. Gilbert Arenas was a heck of an NBA shooting guard at one point and point guard. But he's been out of the league for a while, but he is saying things that continue to keep him relevant. What am I talking about? All right. Recently, he has been on the well, I guess he's been saying it for a little while now, but especially in the wake of LeBron passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for #1 on the NBA's all-time scoring list. By the way, does that suddenly seem like less of an accomplishment than a lot of other things maybe? And it shouldn't be, because it's an incredible achievement. Shows his dedication to his body and everything, him being LeBron, and his sport and his game over the past 20 years of his career. So it shouldn't be, but for whatever reason, it seems like it is. It seemed like it was a much bigger thing when Kareem Abdul-Jabbar broke it back in '84. I don't remember that exactly. I think I was, 6 years old at the time, so I don't remember that exactly. But going back and looking, it seems like it was a much bigger deal when he broke it, took it over from Wilt Chamberlain. I think a lot of people thought at that point that it would never be broken. And then, of course, Kareem breaks it, plays 4 more years. No one thought that one would be broken, at least not in our lifetime. But of course, also no one could have foreseen the rules changes and the changes in the way the game was played that would have allowed for that to happen. At any rate, you can go back and check. I did a show giving LeBron congrats and giving him his flowers for everything that he had accomplished in terms of chasing that record. Now, for your Shannon Sharps and your Nick Wrights and your Gilbert Arenases in the podcast sphere and in the NBA sports media, and I'm sure there are others as well, you're suddenly hearing this, even though, all those guys previously had said that LeBron James had already surpassed Michael Jordan, but now you're also, oddly enough, hearing the Paul Pierces of the world and the Kevin Garnetts of the world, which to me is really, really odd, because those dudes had little to no respect for LeBron, disliked LeBron, and if we're honest, handed that dude work on the court until he went and, did his thing and took his talents to South Beach and so on. But anyway, all of a sudden now that he's passed Kareem and stands #1 all time on the scoring list with an opportunity that it looks like to play a few more years and really put that record possibly out of reach, like maybe forever. But of course they said that with Kareem's record too, right? But anyway, possibly put that record out of reach forever. We're hearing more and more of a groundswell from certain people that all of a sudden this solidifies the GOAT case. And for those who weren't making that GOAT case before, they're saying that makes him the GOAT now. Before I go ahead and comment on that and give my thoughts, let's go ahead and listen to what Gilbert Arenas had to say about it. Check that out, and we'll be right back to discuss it.
Michael Jordan fan, but I'm not gonna do the stronghold. Michael Jordan is still the best player ever. That argument is over. Oh, he did it in 6 years. I don't care. Well, he only played, so I don't give a f. He played 82 games for 9. I don't give a shit, right? There's no, what? Oh, if he wins one more chip, what the f does the chip have to do with the best player?
Okay, so Gilbert Arenas had some interesting thoughts on that. First thing I want to make a point of is that if you noticed, it was really interesting how he made it a point to say that he was a Jordan fan, as if, he could couch the following ridiculous statements by saying, I'm a Jordan fan. So, yeah, about that. Anyway, so first and foremost, this is what makes it interesting to me. Gilbert Arenas is old enough because I think he came into the league in 2002, 2003, right around that time, right? So he's old enough clearly to have grown up watching Jordan. So he saw what Jordan did. He saw what Jordan had to go against. He saw the conditions of the game at the time, right? Those are big. I've talked about it ad nauseum. The conditions of the game in terms of the rules, the way they were then, the way they were now, the way the game was played then, the way it's played now, et cetera, all, affecting the three-point shooting. But anyway, he saw Jordan. He saw what Mike went through, what he had to play against, what he had to do, what he did. Okay. I believe he may have played against Mike for 1, maybe 2 seasons during his NBA career. And a lot of people, even those who played against Mike at the end, still tell you Mike was a problem. All right, cool. But this is not necessarily about Jordan. So moving on. So Gilbert Arenas then was around, played a few years against LeBron, and of course has witnessed the entirety of LeBron's career, both as a competitor, an opponent of LeBron, and of course now as a media member, if you want to call him that, right? A podcaster, a sport basketball analyst. So Gilbert Arenas has seen all of this, and now he's saying that LeBron is the GOAT. So if you had your case before, okay, I get it. That's fine. There may have been a lot of reasons that you would have said that. Okay, we'll go over some of those. But for those of you who weren't making that case before, but now you say, well, he's past Kareem, number 1 all time on the scoring list. He's the GOAT. Question for you. When did being number 1 all time on the scoring list ever become criteria for being the greatest of all time? Yeah, I didn't think so. So why do I ask that question? Because Kareem, up until this year, what was it, almost 40 years, 39 years, 1984, 2023, 39 years, Kareem has held the scoring record. And most people, as great a basketball career from high school all the way through the NBA as Kareem had, haven't regarded him as the greatest of all time, probably since about 93 or 95, right? After maybe Jordan gets his first three-peat, and then of course he comes back, gets another three-peat. But most people haven't regarded Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the GOAT for a very long time. And even still, when he broke the record, that was something you never heard before. You never heard, well, he's the all-time leading scorer, so he's the GOAT. So I find it interesting that people want to use all these different criteria and all these different reasons, and they want to downgrade previous reasons for people being the GOAT and upgrade previous and upgrade these current things that are happening for the reason why people are the GOAT. And what I'm saying is real interesting to me that the goalposts keep moving in favor of LeBron. And to me, what it says is, if you got to keep moving the goalposts, then clearly he's not the GOAT. What you're doing is you are adjusting things to try and fit your narrative. But okay, so be it. So anyway, now he's past Kareem, he's the GOAT. And you got Arenas saying all these other things. Oh, well, Mike played 82 games 9 times. He played 80 plus games 11 times. I don't care. He won all those titles, 6 for 6 and 6 MVPs, never lost in the finals. I don't care. Quick side note, when did winning become so unimportant? Has anyone noticed that? LeBron is the only guy that winning is unimportant for. Have we noticed that? I really don't understand that, right? On the football side of it, Herm Edwards, former coach of the New York Jets, probably his most famous quote ever is, "Hello, you play to win the game. You don't just play to play it. You play to win the game," right? Herm Edwards is known for that quote. Why is it that all of a sudden when it comes to LeBron, winning is so much less important? What do I mean when I say winning is so much less important? He is the only former MVP with this many finals losses. The only one. He's the only former MVP that's upside down in the NBA finals. Yeah, of course. 10 times he went to the finals. That's incredible. But what does that mean when you're losing? No one is saying he never won. He's won 4, but he's lost 6. How do we conveniently lose sight of that? Oh, let me guess. He didn't have enough help. That's what it always is with LeBron. He didn't have enough help. I'm not even going to get into that. But my question is, when did winning become so unimportant, right? When did all the other things that Michael Jordan did become so unimportant? So Gilbert Arenas says he doesn't care about the 10 scoring titles that Michael Jordan had. Why? Because obviously LeBron James is now the all-time leading scorer. But would anyone in their right mind say that LeBron James is a better scorer than Michael Jordan? That's absolutely ridiculous. His offensive toolkit is not nearly as complete. He's much bigger, much stronger. He's shot a lot more threes. He's played in an era where that's the way the game is. Now, to LeBron's point, and to his credit, that's not his fault that's the era he played in. He couldn't help when he was born, and I keep saying that. But again, when you are in a situation, and this is why you can't compare this stuff apples to apples. When you're in a situation where your degree of difficulty is lower, you can't measure it the same way. I've been a proponent for a while now of saying in football and in basketball that they probably need to find a change point of when rules were changed. Like somebody needs to do the analysis and notice the correlation between rules changing and a spike in offensive production, and saying here is where we need to separate it out and start maybe weighing the records that happened from that point. Let me make an analogy. If you and I are in a contest, 100-meter dash, and I set the record and I run a 10-second flat 100-meter dash. Now, of course, I'm aware that the world record, Usain Bolt 9.58 or 9.56, is the 100-meter record, but I'm just using round numbers because it's easy, right? I'm not a mathematician, I'm a journalist. Anyway, so you get, you run this 100-meter dash in 10 flat, and let's say that's the world record. Okay, cool. Now, the next guy runs the 100-meter dash in 9.8 seconds. New world record. Great. But these first two guys, they're running the 100-meter dash uphill. Okay? So they're running this uphill. Now the next guy, the third guy comes along. He's running his 100-meter dash on a flat course. So now he runs his 100-meter dash on a flat course and runs a 9.5 flat, the fastest time anyone in the world has ever seen, right? Obliterated the previous world record of 9.58, or excuse me, of 9.8 by 0.3 of a second, which is like forever in track and field, right? Okay, so he's got the new world record. Do we look at that new world record the same, or do we account for degree of difficulty because the first two guys were running uphill? That's what we have to look at when we talk about the guys from Jordan's era up to, the guys from previous eras, mainly, let's say the 80s and 90s, in terms of their scoring and their assists and all these numbers, up until about 2006, when the NBA really started changing rules to do what? Proliferate offensive production. I say it time and time again, right? So we got to start looking at it and saying, as great as LeBron has been, as much as he's kept his body in tremendous physical condition to be able to do what he was going to do, and I'll touch on that tremendous physical condition thing in a minute, right? As much as he's been able to do all that, and you can't take away the fact that he made all those buckets, the degree of difficulty today is less than it was in Michael Jordan's era. So to look at everything that Michael Jordan did and not take into account the degree of difficulty, the physical defense, we talked a lot about physicality in the last few episodes because JJ Redick said it's nonsense, but the fact is, no matter what you believe, the physicality was much greater back then. The style of play, much different back then. For instance, you're going to tell me that because LeBron is #1 all time, and again, tremendous longevity award, that he's a better scorer than Michael Jordan. There are people who will say that. Now, Michael Jordan's top scoring season in the NBA as a guard, right? 37 points per game. Incredible season. But you know what's the most incredible about that feat of scoring? That season, Michael Jordan made 12 three-pointers. 12. 11 plus 1, 12. 10 plus 2, 12. That's how many three-pointers Michael Jordan made in that season, where he averaged 37 points per game. That was also an NBA that had all-time shot blockers, top 10 guys: Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tree Rollins, Robert Parrish, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, right? That was also an NBA that had big bodies in the paint. Your Kevin McHale's, your Karl Malone's, real true power forwards, not forwards hanging out shooting threes. The lane was clogged. Guys weren't hanging out by the three, so the floor was spread. So if you got past your man, it was an easy lane to the basket. Mike was getting put on the floor. Bad boy Pistons, anybody? We remember that, right? So he's doing that and averaging 37 a game. So now you compare that with LeBron, who gets to very often steamroll down the lane for a wide open one. And later in his career, he's pulling up, shooting a ton of threes. I believe LeBron has now attempted over 2,000 threes. Michael Jordan didn't get close to that. Okay. Now you can say, well, that was Jordan's fault. He wasn't shooting the three. But in that era, teams weren't shooting all those threes. I want to say, and I've said this before, 1988, Reggie Miller comes into the league. I believe 87, he was a rookie. But anyway, NBA games were averaging, I want to say, between 12 and 16 three-point attempts per game. The entire game, two teams, both teams, right? Now, the average three-point attempts per game is up around 70. Up around 70. Because people said, well, it's just the math and threes are better than twos. And if you shoot more threes, you have to make less threes than the comparable amount of twos to win, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I say all this to say that, again, credit due to LeBron for keeping his body in condition for 20 years to do what he did. The degree of difficulty is less. You cannot convince me that LeBron James was a better scorer than Michael Jordan. You cannot. Despite the fact that he's number one all time. It's longevity. Okay, cool. Now, the other point. Oh, and real quick, we always want to give LeBron props for what he did and his body and all that. And it's so interesting to me because you look at a guy, let's say, John Stockton, never won a championship, so we're not talking about that. But we talk about LeBron and putting all the work into his body, so on and so forth, right? In a much less physical era. We just went over that. And it's just a fact, not my opinion. It is a fact. The era was much more physical back then. Do you know John Stockton played 82 plus games 17 times in 19 seasons? Think about that. 17 times he played all 82 or more. Right. He didn't have all the sports science LeBron has, right? He didn't have all the sports medicine and all the nutrition, right? But he did that. In his first 18 years, the mailman, Karl Malone, who we can clearly state was one of the most physical players in the history of the game, right? Anybody gonna argue with me that? I don't think so. Anyway, we can say the mailman, Karl Malone, one of the most physical players in the history of the NBA, missed 10 games in his first 18 seasons, right? So let's not forget when we're talking about everything that LeBron does to take care of his body, so on and so forth. Yeah, can't take that away from him. He did it. But we got to stop acting like he's the only one who did anything. And he also had the benefit of modern medicine, nutrition, and science. These guys in the past didn't have that. Okay. So nobody's knocking LeBron for doing it. I'm just saying, let's kind of and look at some other things. Okay, so anyway, back to Gilbert Arenas. Man, this really got me off on a tangent. But you know, he's saying all these things. LeBron is the GOAT. Oh, another one, and it's not in the clip that I showed, but on this same episode, he talks about how LeBron now has more assists than Magic Johnson. Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. Undeniable on its face. But again, incomplete. It took LeBron 19 seasons to accomplish what Magic did in 13 as a passer. Is anyone going to debate me and try to tell me that LeBron is a better passer than Magic Johnson? Please don't make a fool of yourself and do that. Please don't make a fool of yourself and do that. Don't do that. So I'm not even going to take it any further than that. LeBron James did assisting the basketball in 19 years what Magic did in 13. It's not a discussion, people. It's not a discussion. Now, where I will give credit and what the numbers are going to reflect once it's all over, LeBron is number one in scoring, and he may end up like top 3 in assists, which is a crazy, crazy thing to have accomplished. So I'll give him that. But, you know, longevity is a kind of different thing. Again, conditioning, the work he put into his body, but let's not act like he's the only one who did that. But it's true. We are seeing LeBron play at a higher level at 38 years old than we've ever seen anyone before play at that age. But his body hasn't taken the same pounding over the years that many of the other players who played less time in the league than him did. And that's just a fact. And that's a function of the way the game is played today, the way the game is officiated today, and what the league wants. So anyway, I could go on this all day, but the fact is, Gilbert Arenas, you're crazy. LeBron is not better than Michael Jordan. You can throw out all your little ridiculous arguments. Well, I'm not going to say they're ridiculous, but a lot of the things that you say are incomplete, and you're not doing is giving the full picture and the full context. All right, so what I want to hear from you, am I crazy? What are your thoughts on what Gilbert Arenas had to say? Is he just trying to continue to stay relevant? Do you really believe LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan and he's now the GOAT because he passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar all time on the scoring list? And can't wait to see you next time. And I'm out. Peace.